Hey, welcome back to our podcast, your go-to source for all things real estate and lifestyle in the heart of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Jackson Christian Berry.
And I'm Jean Kristen Berry.
And together we're here to guide you through the vibrant world of Fort Worth and surrounding suburb living.
We believe in creating a community where everyone feels at home. And that's why we're committed to bringing you honest, expert advice in a fun and friendly way. From the bustling streets of downtown to the serene suburbs, we've got the scoop on what makes each area unique.
Each week we'll dive into the latest market trends, offer tips for both buyers and sellers, and share insider knowledge to help you make informed decisions. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about some of the Fort Worth charming neighborhoods, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode.
Welcome back to Welcome Home Fort Worth. Today we are talking about tips and tricks. So we do this every month, and this is our tips and trick day. And we're going to start off today with tips and tricks for buyers, and then we'll also have tips and tricks for our sellers.
Cool.
So first of all, I want to start off with buyers. So, the biggest thing that buyers are looking to do when they're going to buy a house is be able to afford it, right?
Sure.
To get some financing, have the money, have the cash, get a loan.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just talk for just a few minutes about that, about loans and the options with that. So for example, like we know that everybody has to go talk to a broker, a mortgage person, or a bank. So
if they're doing financing.
Yeah. So there's a couple of differences. So I don't know that a lot of our buyers really know or understand the differences between who they're shopping with when they're looking for their financing. So, there's this thing called a mortgage broker.
Okay.
So a mortgage broker is the guy he's kind of the guy in the middle, and he does all the shopping for the buyer, and he goes to all these different mortgage lending companies, and he finds different products. Yeah. We call loans sometimes a product. And so it's kind of a package deal of what's put together. The percentage on the interest rate, money up front, kind of the length of the loan, all that. So a mortgage broker can go to all these different places and they can find different products for the buyer.
Yep.
Some of them will cost more on the front end. They may be cheaper on the back end.
Right. Depends on what the client's goals was.
Depends on
what your
goals
goals
depends
were.
on what they want.
Yeah.
If they're going to keep the house a long time, are they keeping it a short time? Are they flipping it?
Right.
Do they have a lot of cash? Kind of what their deal is. So the mortgage broker is the guy that can shop all that. So the cool thing about a mortgage broker, when you find one of those guys, is that they can offer you a lot of different things, different ways to finance your house. So the negative to that is that there's an overlay. And there's extra fees that are involved with that because the mortgage broker, of course, also has to make some money on that product.
There's a middleman.
Sure. I mean, he's working for you to go find you a good product. So it may cost a little bit more. So that's kind of the downside to using a mortgage broker. But the cool side is you get a lot of options.
Yeah. And to know, the mortgage broker can shop a lot of companies. And that's really awesome. A lot of loan companies that aren't mortgage broker specific, that are companies themselves, they have exclusive products that only their people have. Right? Yes. And so we'll talk about lenders, I'm sure, in a second. But that's just know that they have access to a wide array. There will still be some products that are exclusive to companies or
and certain mortgage brokers can access certain products.
Exactly.
Like maybe they only do Fidelity or
they have to be partnered. There's a word for it. I want to say it's licensed, but I don't think that's right. But they have to be associated with it somehow. So
The other thing is sometimes we see with mortgage brokers is if you've got a newer mortgage broker, sometimes they won't necessarily know the full details of the underwriting process of the company that they've just hooked you up with.
Sure.
And so you might get into a little sticky situation occasionally with that.
Sure.
If they don't really know their underwriting process of what they've shopped for you. So, there's pros and cons to each one. The other one is a mortgage banker. This is also banks. So these are lenders that they originate, they have their own products. So you can only access through them the product that they actually have, that they offer.
Sure.
A lot of times these guys also service. They'll service it on the back end. A lot of times with mortgage brokers, the mortgage is sold pretty immediately. Yeah, so it's going to be serviced by somebody else. But bankers will always, a lot of times they'll service their own loans. So the cool thing about that is that you cut out the middleman, so the fees could be cheaper. But the downside is you're limited in the product. Now, if it's a great product or it's a product that gets done exactly what you want done, then going through the mortgage banker could be a really cool deal for you. I guess the thing that we would always recommend is it pays to do a little shopping.
Sure. Yeah, if you can shop, go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, so I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. And he's not in my area, so I can't help him." But he was just calling me, and we were talking. And good friend. It was fun to hear from. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, my advice to him was like, "Hey, when you talk to your lenders, whether broker, lender, whoever it is, just make sure you're telling them what you want." You know,
yes.
The reality is, this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but you don't. I'm guessing there may be somebody out there who does care about this. The average person doesn't care about interest rate; they care about the monthly payment. Or you may be kind of, I don't know if this is 2.0, but you may be the next step of that. You may not care about your monthly payment. You may care about the amount of interest that you're paying on the course of the loan, whatever it is, right? And so my point to say is that make sure they know your goal. Do you want to purchase a home in a certain price range, right? You want to be approved up to 450 and they're currently telling you 400 or something like whatever it is. Tell them your goals. You want this, approval to here. You want this month. It has to be below this amount,
Right.
Whatever it is. That's not to say, and he was like, I didn't realize that I can just tell them what I want and I can get it. I was like, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because that'd be cool.
Yeah.
In fact, that was the issue in 2008, 2009, really.
Right.
was the biggest
People were
issue.
getting everything.
Yeah, that was a huge issue. Brought down the economy. So, no, what that means is then they just know what they're going for.
Right.
Then they may not be able to get you, if you want 450 or 550 or whatever, let's say 550, you may not be able to get approved in that, but they'll tell you, hey, I can give you 515. And if you want to be 550, here are your next steps. Here's how you can go. And, I need you to remove this piece of debt you have, or pay off this credit card, or we need a little more income,
or wife's not going to be on the loan with you.
Whatever it is. Exactly.
Yeah.
They can coach you through those ways to get you to that point. And so have that kind of conversation first. It's the advisory conversation when you say, I'm trying to accomplish this with my real estate purchase. Can I do this?
Right.
So have that kind of conversation, get your goals aligned. And then I was going to say, this is the trap I feel like we all get into with service providers, like lenders, real estate agents, everybody. There's sometimes a trade-off when you go for the cheapest person.
Oh, sure. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. You're going to pay for it on the back end.
You're going to pay for the back end. That's where I'm going. And y'all, if you can,
at least go moderate.
Yeah, you want to, I agree, shop for sure. Yeah. Absolutely shop. If you can, I've never seen somebody do this, but this is what I almost think about doing. Don't shop through lenders, shop through realtors. And that sounds you shop realtors too if you want to, whatever. But go connect with realtors who can tell you about their lender partners that they're working with.
And what they do and how they service
And the
people.
reason I say that is because the realtor, if they're really partnered with that lender, has kind of vetted them because that person has been able to close deals. And truly, as weird as this sounds, not all lenders can close deals.
Right.
And it's not that they're not capable of closing deals. They just don't do a good enough job to be able to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so not all lenders are made the same. Same thing with real estate agents. Not all real estate agents can get you to the closing table.
Right.
It's a service provider in general, right? So if you can, make sure you're shopping both them and their services and their product they're selling you, but also make sure you've got some good referrals, whether from your real estate agent or from another source that has worked with them personally, has seen them close deals, right? Maybe past clients of theirs or whatever. Just something where you kind of get more of an idea of that side of the game with them.
That's just like when people shop online and they go online to find their lender because they're looking for the best deal. Well, what they don't find out is that, that person hasn't put them through any of the underwriting process, and then they get into the deal and they can't get the house because of the underwriter. So there's all kinds of things like that, and they're doing that blind. I mean, nobody has referred those people to them. And they had no idea what the service was going to be like, or that it was going to not get to the closing table. So we see that all the time. So
all the time.
Yeah, anybody who goes through any kind of real estate transactions, whether it's an investors sometimes have great lenders. Realtors always have great lenders because it's important to us that our people experience good service.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is, this is the good thing about the way we're compensated. We don't get paid unless the deal closes. And if a lender is not closing deals, we're not going to use them. So that's just the reality.
Yeah, it's
if a lender can't do their job, we're not going to work with them.
Absolutely.
That's how that works. So.
Absolutely. That's the way it works every time.
Yeah.
And if you decide you're going to shop, So what you want to do is, it's really hard sometimes to compare apples to apples.
Sure.
So you want to really look at the APR. So the APR is a number that includes not only what it costs to get the loan, origination fees, any other kind of fees, but that's all rolled into the number, as well as the percent of the interest rate. So that gives you a good number to really tell. Also asking for a fee sheet. So you really want to see, what are they charging? Where are they charging it? How does that compare to, ABC lender?
Yeah. They call them loan disclosures. I think
Your
that's
fees disclosures.
Well, there's some type of disclosure they're supposed to give you. They have to give you on the front end once you've been pre-qualified. That's exactly that exists to do exactly what you're talking about, which is compare apples to apples. They're kind of hard to read. There's 3 things you want to look for.
Yeah.
Has your loan? It's in the top right on the first page. Has your loan been locked in? So is your rate going to be variable as time goes on, or has this rate actually been locked in for you? Meaning that like when they say you got a 7.02 interest rate, that it's going to stay that way for 30 days or 60 days, right? So check that one. Cash to close. There's another thing they call this, but you're looking to see if you're paying points to your interest rate.
Right.
You want to see if they've got you putting more money up front to get you a lower interest rate. Because that, again, it's not shady. There are some sites that do that, mostly sites. They'll advertise a 5.2% interest rate, and they can only get you that by having you pay $20,000 out of pocket additional to your down payment kind of thing. So just those 2, cash to close, check the fees. They'll talk about if they're paying anything to interest rates or stuff like that. And then obviously your interest rate, if so you know what that is.
And a lot of that will be reflected in the APR number. So you can use that as kind of a ballpark for that. But that's
down payment amount too would be on that as well. So make sure you know that.
FHA, VA, conventional.
Yep.
The other thing is you want to make sure, depending on like what you were saying earlier, which was such a great point, that depending on the consultation that you have with the lender, if your goal is to, in a year, you're going to sell some big piece of property and you're going to pay it way down or pay it off early, you want to make sure you tell that to the lender, because they need to make sure that the loan lets you pay it off early without penalty.
Great point.
Or let you do a one-time pay down to your principal.
Great point.
There's things like that. The other thing that I'm hearing right now is kind of popular.
Come on, I was going to say if you didn't.
I'm not sure this is what you're thinking, but there's so many options out there where if you lock in the loan right now, you lock in your interest rate, that especially on a new construction home or a spec home that's not going to close for a couple of months, that make sure that your lender gives you the option to relock. That's the thing, without having to pay for it.
Sure. Yeah, locking interest rate. That's a great hack right now. Now, hopefully, judging from most forecasts that I've read recently, hopefully we're moving into a phase of interest rates where they are steady and they're not, because there was a season where it was going up a point a day. I mean, it was just, and 1 week was 6.2, the next week was 7.4. It was wild. So like that rate locks were critical in that phase of interest rates just being so crazy up and down. But hopefully they're a little more steady, but still I'm with you. Rate lock for sure. My point was going to say, make sure it'll be on your loan disclosure as well. There's a checkbox that says, can this loan be assumed?
Yes.
That's not a requirement by any means. Don't base it off of that. FHA and VA, I think, are the only ones that can. I don't think conventional can. But just check and see if they're assumable, because that is a marketing hack that you can, when you go to resell your home, that does add a little, I don't know if it adds value to your home, but it certainly is another thing we can market about your home.
Right.
That lets us say, well, hey, this can be assumed, this rate, or 4%, whatever you have for your rate, you can assume this onto the buyer can assume this when they purchase both your house and your loan.
Yeah, it just gives you a lot more buyers to choose from. Hey everyone, real quick before we get back to the show, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, we'd love to connect with you. We post a lot of content like this in case you miss an episode, along with more Fort Worth and surrounding suburb, local insights, and finds. You can find our team at the Christenberry Group on all social platforms, or you can connect with Jackson and I personally on our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. Just be prepared for lots of pictures of my grandson on either account. Now back to the show. So and honestly, when you're doing the shopping, if you're going to reputable places, there's not going to be huge variance, most likely, between the products and everything. If you're going to reputable lenders, But you will find some savings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're really wanting to pinch and be careful, then that would be a way to make sure that you did that.
I smile because when you said that, I would describe most big box banks as reputable. I think they have decent reputations. I'm just going to be real upfront. I don't recommend you use them as buyers. I know that's kind of a
Why are you saying that?
I'm just saying that. I've had a couple experiences recently where that has been. I've been reminded. We always think this when we do a deal with a big box bank, and we always think this every single time after we close a deal with them. We always are like, we will never do that again. We will never do that again because it is so difficult to close that loan. If it closes, quite frankly, if I don't know this for sure, we would need to like go back into our archives and study this. I would bet that big box servicers, when they are the ones doing the loan, I would bet that our fallout rate of contract goes up on those deals. That'd be my like assumption to put towards our database to check it out and see, to do the research of that. Because it's a wildly difficult process. You're working with 3 or 4 people at a time.
Different parts of the country,
Yes,
different processing
different
plants.
schedules. They clock out, and when they clock out, they're clocked out.
Yeah,
it's not
for the whole weekend.
Yes, the more traditional mortgage lender does clock out, but if there's an emergency, they kick into high gear and they get stuff done. And that's not something that you're traditionally find with big box banks. And so
and especially in this environment where we've got buyers that, like we say, are so easily spooked. You don't want to have a lot of stressful moments for them with their financing because it's really easy for our buyers to just throw in the towel and say, I'm going to do this next year or in 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, well, and again, just for it to be stressful. And to your point, I really think big box banks are alluring and appealing because of the fact that you've banked with them.
Sure.
You've worked with them.
So you assume
they should be a trusted source. Just understand that banking with them is very different than doing your loan with them. It's a very different service. You most likely, well, in fact, I would wonder, you most likely have not really coordinated with your bank. You've just hosted your money with them is what I would guess. I could be wrong, obviously, but in the times when you've had to go work with a professional there, either in office or online or whatever, I would assume that's been kind of difficult, whether it's through a call line center or whatever, just because it's a more corporate experience, right? It's not a customer service, one-to-one local kind of company you're working with.
Yeah.
And so it's a different experience, and there's a level of uncertainty that exists whenever those are involved. So,
and the times I have seen it be successful is when somebody has specifically sought out their mortgage specialist department.
Yep.
And not just walked into a bank, that's just down the road and gone to the first person that came in the door.
My experience with the mortgage specialist is that your loan's going to get handed off. That's my experience. You have departments, and so you have a sales rep who's most likely the person who you pre-qual with, the person you work with, but then they've got a mortgage officer or a mortgage servicer. Well, they've got a mortgage servicer, and then the mortgage servicer will have an assistant, and then you're working with kind of one of them, but then all of a sudden you're working with multiple, and then you've got underwriters that are in-house for them, but then you're having to deal with all the other people involved. You never really work with the underwriter, which you don't really usually work with underwriters anyways. You usually work with a loan person.
We just found there was a lot of overlaid rules. Like it would take 72 hours to get a file out of underwriting, whereas if you're servicing one that's closer, that's somebody that can provide real direct customer service, they could get it done in 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I read an email from the most recent transaction I did with a big box bank, the email would say, "Hi, I've been in meetings all day. I've not been able to work this deal today." And it's like, and that's what I would like epitomize that experience with is it's like they have so many things going on and it's not you. It's not you. Versus a lender who only has, keep in mind, only has deals, like real estate deals going on, lending deals that they're working at. They're in it every single day doing just that.
Yeah.
And they're paid when they're paid. They're paid when the deal closes, and so there's a little more motivation there as well. Yeah,
not a salary.
So
all that to be said, just make sure shop. A couple of things is shop it, shop your loan, and find out what the products are that are available. You probably want to shop, a mortgage banker and a mortgage broker.
Yep.
So do both of those.
Yep.
Look at your APR, check your fee sheets, and just make sure that you're comfortable with the numbers that you're seeing. And if you're not, ask questions. and make sure you do a consultation so they know what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, make sure they know your goals.
Yeah,
Yep.
they need to know your goals so they can get done what you want done. All right, so that's our tip and trick for our buyers.
Okay.
So sellers, now we want to talk about sellers. And this is a very seasonal tip and trick.
Okay.
Because, we're selling in Texas. So this is what we're talking about. And this is DFW. And it's like 98 degrees outside today. And it's supposed to be in the hundreds in the next week. So when, we're getting into July and then August comes. So it's really, really, really hot outside. So sellers, unknown fact for some of y'all out there and for some people is you can really take this to your advantage this time of year to be on the market. So what you can do is you can provide such a cool respite for these buyers. So and you laugh, but I want to tell you that having we're showing buyers and it's hot out there and they're in and out of their cars and they're melting. And so they're tired and they've been to a house that was hot or one that smelled funny. So if you have the house and they're seeing 5 houses in one day, and if you have the house that when they open the door, they're greeted by cold air and you've got your AC turned down and you've got this wonderful soothing music playing.
Sure. Yep.
And you also, you've got maybe cold drinks for them.
Yep.
Some good snacks, salty and sweet snacks.
Sure.
That's what people crave when they're dehydrated.
Sure.
Salty and sweet snacks. So if you have that station set up for them when they come through the house, you're gonna make such a huge first impression.
You stand out.
You really, really, really stand out.
Because not everybody does it.
To the point where if your house is in the running with the characteristics that they're looking for, it could be the thing that pushes you over the top.
Yeah, for sure.
Because remember, buyers come into a house, they look at it usually one time, and they decide to make an offer.
Yeah.
So, that is how that really does work. They don't come back and come back and come back.
Yeah.
They typically see it one time and make an offer. So if you can be that house that provides such a cool, calm respite for them in the middle of them doing this job of finding homes, you can really stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I think it shows like hospitality.
Yes.
And for me, it's a very subtle way for you to, this is going to sound very weird. It's a very subtle way for you to actually connect from seller to buyer versus through the real estate agents, right?
Yep.
And so it's a very subtle way for the buyer to see like, wow, this seller cares about their home, or this seller cares about selling their home, or this seller is intentional about these things. And that's a really great way to look to a buyer because it makes them feel more comfortable with you.
Absolutely.
As a seller, as a person who they'll be doing the deal with, right? It really changes your persona in their minds.
And they perceive you as more cooperative, somebody that's, going to try to make this deal work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and those are all good things. Whether or not we're going to cooperate with what they submit, who knows?
Sure, who knows?
But
yes.
If you start off on that foot, then you're already winning because like you always say, people want to do nice things for people who they think are nice.
People do things for things they like. People do things for people they like. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, that's how I would say it. Because and that's not me saying that. It's like psychological studies show that. I can pull them up if I need to cite them, but like that's what people find in human psychology. So.
Absolutely. So those are just some little tips that can help you, especially in this market right now where buyers are picky and they're easily spooked. And so anything you can do to solidify them feeling positive about you and your home is going to be a real plus. The other thing to think about with this is, when a buyer comes through a house, they're going to stand on your front porch for a little bit of time while the realtor's opening the door, getting in the key box and everything. Sure. So they're going to be standing there with the realtor. So if you have tons and tons of mosquitoes that are eating on them while they're standing right there, or you've got, a smell or something going on, that's a real place to make a difference right there before you open the door to that cool air. The other thing is, they're going to walk through your house, and that's going to be great because it'll be cool and it'll smell good. And if you can come up with some kind of a fresh scent, something fresh, so that not only does it feel good, but it smells good, you're hitting 2 big senses for the buyer. That's going to be a win too. Yep. And then, buyers are always going to go out the back door. So they're always going to go outside. They're going to look around. They might not. A lot of our buyers don't really go out in the yard a lot, but they will come out some. And so right there at the back porch is another opportunity for you to have your fans going. So if you have your ceiling fans, go ahead and keep them going. Yeah. And even if you might even think about buying a mister this time of year. and have that going on the back porch. And then they walk out there and they feel that shade.
Yeah.
They've got the mister going, the air's going, there's no mosquitoes. So they're seeing themselves then staying right there in that house and being a part of that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So, I mean, those are all things that you can do this particular time of year to really try to help bump up your ability to be chosen.
Besides installing a pool.
And besides putting in a pump, which would be only $100,000.
Yeah, I don't know about
I think a mister might be 25.
100,000 for a 20K pump.
I don't think you want to do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That would be our thing. The other thing is if you have one of those.
Or if you are, just invite us over.
That's true. Yeah, for sure. Especially when it's 100 degrees outside. If you're one of those people that have no shade whatsoever in your backyard.
Or just blasted.
I mean, it's just like miserable, like the back door is heated up. You can't even hardly touch it. So you can buy these very colorful, they're kind of like these big triangle shade cloths. And you can string those up so that you have some shade. There's an appearance of some shade in the back. That along with a table with an umbrella. Just bring some shade in, and that will also help tremendously. So those are kind of some little hacks to help you sell your house and get picked out of all the other people.
Yeah.
You can also invest in these mosquito spraying companies, and they can come out even if you just did it for the 3 months that you're going to be.
You're listed or whatever on the market. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, could be well worth that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, anything you can do to be hospitable, and that's such a. I don't think we talk about that with sellers, but if you can be hospitable, if you can help them feel more at home in the home, right? That's going to help you just the feeling, the ambiance, or whatever. Obviously, we're talking, 5%, 10% boost in your in your stickability as far as will they purchase it? Because it's still going to need to be the right floor plan. It's going to have the features right. Obviously, those things will trump that. But you are putting your best foot forward, and you are giving yourself the best shot you possibly can at this buyer. Going, wow, I really like this. There's really nothing bad about this. Wow.
Absolutely.
I think that you absolutely stand out. It's so fun. I just had this happen yesterday. I was showing houses yesterday, and we had one that didn't have anything. One where you walked in nice and cool. They had put chocolate chip cookies out, and there were bottled waters, and there was music on the TV. And you just when you walk in, you just smile. You just smile because you go they want to sell the home. That's what they think. Yeah. And not in a I got them kind of way, but in a they are going out of their way to sell their home, and so they would be somebody who'd be great to work with. I mean, that's really the ambiance and the persona that you put forward in doing that kind of work.
Absolutely.
And that's just helpful for any buyer to go, oh, I think I kind of want to work with this person. So
and with that being said, also with open houses would be another place to really bring that home. I had a transaction recently where totally believe that because of the way that we had the home set up during the open house.
Cool.
Relatives were doing videoing for the out of state buyer. And they were just talking about it so profusely about how it felt and what it smelled like and what it looked like and all that while they were going through with them. And I really think that had a lot to do with that was the buyer that ended up buying the house.
Oh, cool.
So, open houses, same way. Make sure hospitality.
Yeah, it goes a long way.
Yep, it really does. So that's your little tip today for sellers in this hot Texas market.
Nice.
Try to keep the buyers from melting when they come in your house.
That's right.
That would be my recommendation.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. That was great.
So we look forward to seeing you again. Next tips and tricks. We'll have some other surprises for you, things that you maybe not thought of and never considered before. So
look forward
to seeing y'all again.
Cool. Hey, thank you so much for watching the podcast today. If this has been valuable for you at all, we sure could use your help getting the word out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and give us a follow and consider taking just maybe 2 minutes to leave us a review. Both do wonders for our show with the algorithm, and on both platforms, all you got to do, head over to our show page. On Spotify, hit the 3 dots and select rate. And on Apple, all you got to do is just scroll down to the show and say leave a review. So just click that. If you're seeing this on Facebook or Instagram, a like or comment puts all the good vibes out in the algorithm for us. And on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we post a new episode. Join us again next week for more Fort Worth housing news and updates. Until then, y'all have a great week.